Hello and welcome to this lecture on how to do a literature review. I've talked to most of you by now, and you've got a good idea of your general topic, which is what you need to have in order to start doing some searching for your literature review. And as I discussed with most of you, the literature review is going to help you refine and tweak your topic and your questions and what kind of data you're going to collect. You already have some idea of the questions you want to find out about in your general topic. And what we're going to look for is in your literature review is research that's already been done in your general topic. So actual action research or data collection and research that's been done in your topic. So one of the things to think about, we talked about variables last week, or I gave you stuff to read on variables, and so variables can be useful in determining keywords to use in order to do your research. So remember that an independent variable is the variable that's manipulated or controlled, and the dependent variable is what happens. So if you're wondering, does pen or pencil make a difference in how test grades? It's a silly thing, but your independent variable would be whether the student has a pen or a pencil. That's what you're manipulating. You're giving some students pens and some students pencil. Your dependent variable would be the grade on the test, and that's super simplistic and is not probably causal, but let's just say that that's what we're doing. You're varying the independent variable and you're having an effect on the grade. Even simpler, think of it, baby's crying and has a bottle. A baby has a bottle, take it away, they cry, give it back, they stop crying. The independent variable is the bottle, whether they have it or not. The dependent variable is crying, whether they've stopped or started crying. So your variables will probably deal with some kind of instruction, some intervention you're doing, something you're changing, something you're giving them to do. That would probably be your independent variable. Your dependent variable would be the outcome or the effect. Attitude toward reading, creativity. I'm blanking on some of the other things that we've talked about, but those would be your dependent variables. And then also to help you with your search, you can look at your participants. So your participants probably going to be your students, could be library students, so you can use library, ESL students, parents, could be that you're looking at the what the participants could be the parents, what they do, what something that they do having effect on your students. Could be teachers. If you're looking at attitude towards makerspaces, maybe you're going to survey teachers and see if you can change their attitude towards makerspaces, and they would be your participants rather than the students. You might be using an exercise with the students, but your participants in your data collection might be your teachers. So databases that you can look in to find literature. Since many of you are doing something in the library, I would suggest Library Information Science and Technology Abstracts, which focuses on research that has some connection to either library or information science. ERIC, of course, is the education research databases. You can access them two different ways, via EBSCO or Institute of Education Sciences. EBSCO probably has a stronger search interface that makes it easier to find material. Other ones I would suggest are Academic Search Complete, ProQuest Central, ProQuest Education Journals, which just focus on those education journals, and Google Scholar is another one you can use. All of these can be found by clicking on databases and choosing from the alphabet menu here. I'm going to go to Google Scholar because I just want to show you why it's useful. Some of you may have done Google Scholar searches outside of going through Tang Library, but if you do it by going into databases, then going to Google Scholar, it will give you information about whether the full text is available at the library. So if nothing is available, if there's nothing over here, then you can click on here and still sometimes read the abstract or this is a book, so you view parts of the book, so you might gain some information there. But here it's going to tell you if it's available easily through full text at Cheng Library. When you click on that, it'll take you back to where it's available. This one, it says ERIC here, so it's probably going to take you into the ERIC database and to the search return that will have that. Sometimes you'll see it also available in other places. Sometimes you take this, you can click on this and it doesn't take you to it takes you to the abstract but not to the full text available. Sometimes it takes you to maybe the author's website and they've posted their article there. So sometimes you'll find that it doesn't give you full text, but you can try following the other link and see if it takes you anywhere. So this is a good thing to use. And then the other, so if you go to databases and let's do ProQuest, so you can see most of these have a description. So here under education journals, 820 periodical titles in education. Really nice big bunch of articles, bunch of sources to search. When you're doing searching, this is an example of a search in ERIC. And what this sample is showing you is that the searcher has used examples of their independent variables, their dependent variable, and their participants in order to do an advanced search within ERIC. And some of the suggestions made here, you may or may not be able to find anything doing this. It will give you closer approximations of what, closer to what you're planning, but it may not. You may have to do some synonyms or expand your searches other way, but let's stick with this. Do not check off full text. The original slide, excuse me, these are not my slides, but I'm using somebody else's. The original slide suggested checking off full text, but you can ILL articles, and sometimes you find an article that you read the abstract, and it just seems to be the perfect excuse me, it just seems to be the perfect thing, so you can go in and ILL, get the article from another library, and I'll show you a place to go to find out how to do that. Checking off peer-reviewed is good because you are looking for articles that are research articles that have been refereed or examined by peers. What happens with a peer-reviewed article is the writer sends it into the magazine, the journal. The journal editor sends it out to 2 other people to read and make comments on. Goes back to the original, back to the editor. The editor decides whether to accept, reject, or have the author of the article makes changes. Once that's done and they decide changes are made and it's accepted, then it goes into the journal. So this will help you get rid of material that is not relevant to what you're doing. You can't, as we'll go through in a minute, you don't want to have non-refereed and non-scholarly articles in your literature review. You can put the dates down going back 10 years. If you're really having trouble finding articles, doesn't mean they're not there. You may need to go back farther to find some kind of seminal article and then do something called forward chaining, which we'll talk about. But you can start with limiting to 10 years so that you have get an idea of what's out there. I do want most of the material that you include in your literature review to be within the last 10 years. And then if you're in ERIC, you can check off journal articles because documents are not going to be peer reviewed. Other databases will have things like scholarly articles as a drop down, or it might you might check off check off everything that's not book reviews or other types of things. So you can look through the filters and choose appropriate filters. And this is just click on the search button. As librarians, most of you should know how to do this. And this one came back with 3 searches, which is one of the things that might, you might get 3 really on target articles here with this search, but then you may want to expand your searching to find additional articles. And then you click on full text and takes you to the article. This LibGuide is useful for all through this course, but it's going to talk to you about finding articles, places to go to find articles, search tips, and here is where you'll find what to do when you don't find it in full text, but it really seems to be right on, spot on what you're doing. Sometimes I do that and you get the article and it's not, but it's not going to cost you anything but time to do it, which is a good reason to start this early. And start doing your literature review earlier rather than later. This also has some good information on citing in APA format. This particular handout is very useful. Talks about RefWorks, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Gives you other other hints for reading. So it's generally not just the literature review, but overall it's a good place. I have this on the Blackboard. So you get all these papers, they're all really long. You're overwhelmed, you don't know, the abstract sounds like it might be useful, but you're not sure. So read the abstract. The title sounds good, read the abstract. Abstract sounds good, go all the way to the discussion section. It can be discussion, summary of findings, conclusions sometimes even, but go to that section and it kind of gives you an overview of the whole study and what happened. So it's what your chapter 5 is going to be, kind of linking it back to the hypotheses they had to begin with and how their research came out. And then you can go to the methods section to see how the study was conducted, and if all of those things seem to work, then that might be a paper that you will want to read and read completely to include. Different types of literature. So we've been talking about refereed articles, peer-reviewed articles, and the journals in the ERIC system are labeled EJ. So they're in a journal. They might not all be refereed completely. They're in a journal. I don't know if everything that's EJ is definitely refereed. But you don't want ED. If the results list shows an ED, that's not going to be something that you want to even look at unless it's just for background for yourself. Proceedings may or may not be useful. It depends. What happens is if you present at a conference, some conferences collect the papers that are presented, the full paper. The person may have only presented 20 minutes on the subject, because usually you have about 20 minutes and they do 3 people and each person does 20 minutes and then you ask questions. But the full paper may be published in the proceedings, and that will be a useful journal, a useful thing to use in your research. An opinion piece, not research articles, not included in your thesis, generally in more popular types of magazines or journals like Newsweek, and has something to do with it, maybe gives you keywords, but not research articles. How-to articles, again, centered more on the practitioner, sometimes written by the practitioner, where there's not a rigorous design and not rigorous data collection, is not going to be necessarily in the, it's not going to be an article you want to include in your literature review. So besides checking multiple databases, how else do you expand your search? So we saw in that search that we had 3 articles. We need way more than that. So what do? Look at the abstracts of those articles for keywords, synonyms, and add those to your search. You might, if you're doing, I don't know, maker spaces, they may also be called maker labs or fab labs, or making, all those might be places that other keywords and synonyms, I guess I'm hungry, synonyms that you can use. Search the references of your full text articles and see if they're additional citations. Did they cite a research article? If somebody reads your thesis, they're going to look at your references, and you're going to be citing articles that are relevant to your research. So the same would be happening in research articles. And that's called back chaining. Forward chaining is looking at cited by. So if we went to, I'm going to go into a database. We'll go into library. And we're going to do teams and reading. I'm not going to put, these are not really variables. I'm just doing a quick search. And we will see, this one doesn't have it. Eric has it. Some databases will have, and why is it not coming up here? Cited by and, oh, here we go. Cited references. So this is basically the reference list. The reasons these don't have it is they may not be peer-reviewed and therefore not have a, they may not be a research article and have references. They might be more of a journal type of article that didn't include any references. Or there might be other reasons why. But the nice thing is, okay, you have this looks good, you're kind of wanting to broaden out, just click here and it's going to give you all the cited references. Now a lot of these, this may be an older article, they're not available through in this database, but you might find ones here that are, you know, in this database and you can click right through them. And I picked a really lousy example, but within those cited references you might find materials that are in there. So here's cited, let's look at the cited reference. Everything's through Interlibrary Loan. Oh, here we go, PDF full text. So you can go boom, right to this. This is what I want to look at, and there it is. So it makes it a little easier. If you find, if it's not there, and if you've got a paper copy and you want to go in, you can go into journals. If you know the name of the journal that it's in, that's not where I want to be. Oh gosh. If you go into Chang Library, I find that they have a really terrible back. You can go into journals A to Z. If I want something in School Library Journal, which is not going to have peer-reviewed articles, but let's say I want to read something and I know what issues it's in. It's telling me it's available here. I can go here and look at the journal. I know it's going to be, let's say, I know it's in the 2016 and it's in March 16, volume 62-3, that I can go and find the actual article there. Let's go back. And there is also, of course, I'm not finding a, let's see, ProQuest has one. Cited by. Cited by is forward chaining. That means that four articles that are also in this database have cited this particular article, so that they might also be something that you would be that would be useful in your might be a useful article for you to use. So and you just click on there and there you go. So those are ways to expand your search. Forward chaining, backward chaining, new keywords. Do search the journals if you're really having trouble. Look at the table of contents of journals that you found. Go into that journal section in Chang and take a look. If you if you find a good author, you can go into. No, where do I want to go? All right, let's go back to, okay, let's go back to where this is. All right, so my original article here is so meeting readers where they are, Carol Gordon. You can click on her. So Carol Gordon's written something. She was taught at Rutgers when I was there. Carol Gordon has written something, meeting readers where they are, seems pretty interesting. What else has she written? Is there something else that she might have written that will pertain to what I'm doing. Sometimes writers will do multiple articles on different aspects of their research, and this will list you everything in the database that they have indexed for Carol Gordon. They should not be giving me Pam Gordon, but they are because Carol and Pam are there. But all right, and we've talked about other databases to search. So try and figure out your variables. You might do a general search and read a couple articles, then you might get a little, I think the exercise this week will kind of give us some idea, give you a little more, help you narrow your variables a little bit, and as we go forward you're going to be narrowing down your variables even more, but you can do that. Are the variables relevant? So just, you know, summary of kind of what we talked about. I'm not going to read it all to you. The slides are going to be available under Blackboard. Oops, went the wrong way. Continuing to go the wrong way. Keeping track of your articles. You want to kind of keep your articles all together in one place. And also, before I forget, make sure when you're working on your thesis that it's always saved in 2 places. It can be on your computer and a thumb drive. I use Dropbox because I use Dropbox as a kind of it's in the cloud. It's cloud storage, much like Google Drive, and I have it set up as another drive that I can put things in all of my computers. Therefore, it's not only in the cloud that I can access it anywhere. So this is really good if you're working working from home. You might be, you know, finding some time to work on it at home, finding some time to work on it at work, finding some time when you're traveling. When I open my computer, everything I have saved in Dropbox before I connect to the internet is on my computer, unchanged. If I've worked on my whatever it is on another computer and saved it to Dropbox there, or if I've gone online and dropped something in Dropbox, it updates on the computer once I connect to the internet. It gives me reassurance that if Dropbox, the company, dies, then I still have it on my laptop as long as I don't connect to the internet. And because I use multiple computers, I have it in multiple places. RefWorks is a way to collect more when you're to collect your articles. It's available free through the library. I haven't used it in a while. It used to have a really fairly steep learning curve. If you're familiar with it, or if you want to play with it, it's definitely something to use. It helps you organize your reference list, and you can store the PDFs there, I think, and it can be useful. I just have always found it to be a little just a little bit more of a learning curve. Dropbox is free. Evernote is another, if you haven't used this, also on the cloud. Basically what Evernote tries to do is be the digital equivalent of multiple notebooks with multiple pages. So the notebooks are over here and your pages are here. And you can upload your PDFs there. You can make notes to yourself, have another page that is just notes from each article, notes to yourself as you're writing. Nice thing is it is searchable. I don't even know if this is, okay. It's searchable through tags. You can add tags, or you can keyword search. It won't search your PDFs, I don't think, but you could keyword search through your notes. And you can do multiple notebooks. I don't know what the free limit is, maybe 100 notebooks, but it can be useful for organizing information, and it doesn't have a real strong learning curve, a real steep learning curve. You can do old-fashioned note cards if that's what you want to do. That's perfectly acceptable too. Just as a way to organize and keep all of the articles that you're finding all in one place. And of course, you can use your Google Drive and use your College of Ed Google Drive if you want to keep it separate from your personal, or if you just, you know, we have it here for your availability if you don't have Google Drive. And again, it keeps it in the cloud. It can be a good place to store things. So your assignment this week is do assignment 1. It's a more formal assignment to help you develop your research question. And as you're developing that research question, that will help you develop your variables and your the other things you need for the keywords for your literature review. But don't wait until you finish this assignment. You can start your literature review anytime. Some of you I know have already. I will take a look at the 2 exercises you have handed in. I probably won't do a lot of commenting on them because they're really more thinking through writing type of exercises. This one I will comment more on if necessary. And as always, if you have any questions, let me know, and I will be talking to you.